Jai Jinendra. In this lecture, we are addressing a question: can the human population or the quality of human population be improved? This, of course, is an important question. There have been attempts of improving the quality of human and animal population since ancient times. In India, marriage relations were restricted to the same caste and community to prevent falling quality of offspring. It was believed that that if you have marriage relation with a lower caste, the quality of offspring will go down. Selective breeding in animals has been in practice since ancient times, and this has been done all over the world. Marriage relations were also confined to the same religion, for the same cause, that the religion is a big factor in deciding the quality of human population. With the discovery of genetics, a new kind of approach to improve human population has been tried. Genetics is a revolutionary discovery in science, and because the genetics or the genes have been found to control many of the traits in human being and the organisms, it was thought that the human quality can also be improved with change in genetics, and this prompted scientists to try various methods to improve the gene quality and thereby to improve the human population quality. So in this lecture, we are going to study the scientific approach and the philosophical approach of improving the human individuals or the human quality. We will confine to humans, and we are not going to consider the quality of animals in this lecture. All religious philosophies in the world that way have been aimed to improve the human population and the human quality. We will confine in this lecture only to Jain philosophy. Eugenics is a branch of science or branch of biological science, and it aims to improve the genetic quality of human population. Historically, eugenists have attempted to alter human gene pools by excluding people and groups judged to be inferior and promoting those judged to be superior. So the first thing here is that you must have a division in the society. One class is inferior and another class is superior, and then you decide that the genes of superior class are better and the genes of the inferior class are not so good. So at the outset, it introduces a division in the society. This has been associated with scientific racism. Some people have called it scientific racism, the notion of superior quality and the inferior quality promotes racism. Contemporary eugenists characterize it as a way of enhancing individual traits. So the scientists believe that by improving the gene quality, the human quality can be improved, and they are particularly interested in physical traits, the physical traits of a person rather than a behavioral traits. Philosophies, on the other hand, emphasize the behavioral traits, that the behavior of a person must be good. If the behavior is good, he is a good person. And the scientific approach, is trying to see that, if the physical traits are good, the person is good. Eugenics policies have included genetic screening. Now, here various methods, which have been tried, particularly in West, are being enumerated. The one is genetic screening. It's a very difficult question. You must then have genetic tests, of groups of population and screen them as good and bad. So this is one method. Birth control. And if you see that, there is a group, which is genetically superior, and there is a group which is genetically inferior, then in the inferior group you must have a birth control so that the population of inferior people is not increasing, So this is one method. You try birth control. Promoting differential birth rates. So in the superior group, there must be higher birth rates, and in the inferior group there must be lower birth rates. So this is again a control which is imposed on population. Then marriage restrictions. The marriage relation must be established between the superior class and not with the inferior class. This also has been tried. Then segregation, both racial and segregation and sequestering of the mentally ill. So you segregate the inferior class as well as those people who are mentally ill, they must be separated out, and these people must not have marriage relations with the superior class. Compulsory sterilization, this is another method which has been tried, So you have a compulsorily sterilization in inferior group so that they don't increase the population. Forced abortion, very inhuman, but has been tried, If the inferior people conceive, ladies or women conceive, they must be forced to abort. And so the forced abortion method has also been tried. Or forced pregnancies, this is the opposite of this, So you must have increased pregnancies in the superior group in order to increase the population of better quality people. And ultimately culminating in genocide. So all these methods, which have been, on the face of it, you can say that they are not human or humanly methods, and they ultimately result in genocide. You kill the babies when they are born or they are aborted, or the other methods of genocide. These eugenic policies have been conceptually divided in two categories. What is known as a positive eugenics. It is aimed at encouraging reproduction among the genetically advantaged population. As I said, that this is a positive eugenics. That is, you have a reproduction in a superior group, and a negative eugenics is aimed to eliminate through sterilization or segregation those physically or mentally or morally undesirable. So such people who are either morally not good, or they are mentally not healthy, or those who are not physically healthy must be segregated they must be sterilized or other methods used to control their population. And we all know that this kind of approach has been, how this has been abused by Nazi government in Germany, how the Jews were killed by Nazi government just because of this reason that the Jews is an inferior class. So look here, the way it affects the human population. Critics of eugenics have argued that eugenics greatly overestimates the influence of biology. There are many scientists who say that, look here, what you are doing here is that you are believing that the biology improves the human population, but they said no, this is not correct. You are overestimating the influence of biology, and which is not so. It does not really improve. The genetics does not improve the quality as such of human population. The National Human Genome Research Institute says that eugenics is inaccurate. They have now come out with the truth that, look here, this approach is inaccurate. It's scientifically erroneous and immoral. So they have come out openly against this kind of practice. Some scientists would not admit that breeding humans for certain abilities is at all possible. So the scientists say that, look here, the real abilities in the humans cannot be improved by breeding or by genetical methods. Some criticize the view that certain traits such as intelligence and criminality were hereditary because these traits were subjective. So if you look at the real qualities of people, it's intelligence, and the loving people, the affectionate people, the passionate people, and not criminals. Criminals is other end of this quality. And the scientists really think that these qualities are not hereditary. The hereditary qualities are physical, which is physical traits which are something different, and the real qualities of a human being are not hereditary. The scientists have openly made a statement. Because they say these qualities are subjective. I mean, you can see examples, there is an intelligent son is not born to an intelligent father. Einstein's son is not Einstein, or a criminal's son is not necessarily criminal. He can be a good person. So these traits, in fact, are subjective and are not controlled by genetics. Others argued that eugenics can cause harmful loss to genetic diversity. Diversity in living beings or in species is an important factor, and people now are for diversity. The diversity must prevail. And if you use these eugenics methods, then it controls it, or it causes a harmful loss. It's loss in genetic diversity. So it's not good. Environmental atheists have argued against germinal choice technology and other advanced biotechnological strategies for human enhancement. So the environmentalist people, or those who are concerned with the environment, are totally against this kind of use of this kind of technology for human enhancement. They said these are not the proper methods to improve the quality of human population. So eugenics is now discouraged and is opposed now. So the time is gone when the eugenics was given importance in some countries. There is another branch of biology called Euphenics. Now this is something different from eugenics. Euphenics is the science of making phenotype improvements to humans after birth. In the eugenics, the improvements are thought to be made before birth. You improve the gene quality and expect to have a good offspring. In Euphenics, you try to improve the quality after birth of a human being. So you make phenotype changes in the individual. It was argued that it was more feasible to positively change an individual's genetics by this method rather than attempt eugenics. So now scientists think that Euphenics is a better method to change genetics by phenotype changes than making genotype changes by eugenics. So this method is now becoming popular. Euphenics is a positive form of genetic engineering practiced through diet, lifestyle or environment. So how Euphenics is tried or is being practiced? It is practiced through diet, dietic control, dietic regulation, lifestyle changes, and proper environment for living, for growth and so on. So this is supposed to change the genetics of an individual through phenotype method. So Euphenics is a positive form of genetic engineering. It's not a negative form. Euphenics improved the genetic conditions so that the people could live normal or healthy life. So the Euphenics can also improve the genetic conditions and can make people to have a normal life and a healthy life. Euphenics, invented in 1960s, is the preferred science or the preferred technology now. One of the first publicized applications of Euphenics was the use of vitamins containing folic acid during pregnancy to combat neural tube deficiencies. So this is again a physical approach to improve the quality of people. So one of the methods, as has been said here, is tried you administer folic acid during pregnancies, and that improves the quality of fetus. So because it reduces neural tube deficiencies, so naturally the fetus quality is good by administering folic acid during pregnancies. This is one method tried. Euphenics is used today in the medical community, in the medical way, by applications such as use of insulin to control diabetes or installation of a pacemaker to offset a heart defect. These are the methods which are now being tried, and they are counted under Euphenics. And this of course improves the quality or the personality of a human being by reducing the chances of deterioration of health and so on. Jainism has been practicing since ancient times lifestyle and dietary rules. So if the scientists are talking of diet control and lifestyle changes, well, this has been practiced or has been practiced in Jainism since ancient times. It has been emphasized that people must have a good diet, a regulated diet, a selective diet, and have a good lifestyle, and that improves the life of a person, So this is an ancient practice as far as Jain philosophy is concerned. We have these methods to improve the health and well-being of the people, and well-tested and tried methods. Scientific approaches aim to genotype changes and phenotype changes to improve the quality of human being, but Jainism is the one which improves the behavioral traits of the people. So it is the behavioral traits, which really counts rather than the physical or bodily traits, and that in fact counts to have a superior or inferior person. These may in turn result in genotype or phenotype changes. Of course, when you have changed a lifestyle and a regulated selective diet, it can make genotype and phenotype changes in the individuals practicing. So we briefly review the Jain practices and rules. What are these practices and rules which improves the human quality? One is ethical living. Ethical living has been emphasized, in fact, by all religions, and particularly so in Jain religion. So Jain philosophy is known for ethical living. The ethical living is essential, in fact, for order in the society and brotherhood, justice and peace. For these things to happen in society, ethical living is necessary. In Jainism, the good of the society and the good of the individual are linked. If the individual is good, the society will be good. So you make the individual good, and automatically the society will be good. So the ethical rules prescribed for individual also ensure friendly relations, justice, peace, and order in the society. So the society improves automatically. The object of rules is to control the mind and mold one's conduct along the spiritual path. So these practices, rules which we are going to talk about, basically are meant to control the mind of the individual and lead him to a spiritual path. If he lives a spiritual life, his quality of the personal quality will be better. It prevents the practitioners from the evils and temptations of unguarded life. So if you have certain rules and practices in your life, you are not likely to fall down. There are 5 vows both for the householders and the munis, the sadhus, the saints, And these 5 rules or 5 vows are well known in Jain community. Their observance is limited in case of householders called Shravak, or they are called, these rules then will be called Anuvrats. And it is a complete for the munis or the saints, and then the rules are called Mahavrat. The rules are same, but they are being followed in a little different way by householders. There is people like us, and saints, those who have renounced the world. The first one is Ahimsa Anuvrat. This is a very well-known principle. Ahimsa here means not hurting any mobile being. Anuvrat, is confined to this, that, the person should not hurt a mobile being, And we know there are immobile beings, like plants and other microorganisms. We are not talking of those here in case of the householder. Hurting or hinsa is done in three ways. Done intentionally and personally, or through others, or by consenting to other people who do so. So either you do it yourself, violence, or you approve the violence of others, or you ask somebody else to do it. There are three ways of doing violence or hinsa, and all these three methods must be avoided by the householders. If one thinks of hinsa under patience and does not actually commit hinsa, he is still guilty of hinsa and binds karma. This is a very important point. Even if you think of violence and actually don't commit it, then as far as the principle, the soul is concerned, you have committed hinsa, you have committed violence, because your thought is important. If your thinking is good, then the state is something different. If your thinking is bad, the state of the soul is something different. And bad thinking will arouse patience and naturally will be a cause of binding karma. So thinking is very important in our life. Our thoughts must be good, thinking must be good. There is two kinds of hinsa. One is sankalpi or intentional, and another is arambhi, or what is called as occupational. So the violence has been divided in two main categories. Intentional violence, sankalpi hinsa, I will do this, I will kill him, or he should kill him, something like this. So sankalpi hinsa is intentional. And one is occupational, because all of us have one or another kind of occupation, and during this, we do commit violence, So that kind of violence is known as arambhi or occupational violence. Sankalpi hinsa is, for example, hunting or animal sacrifice or killing animals for food and so on, And this type of violence is completely prohibited as far as householders or shravaks are concerned. They should not indulge in this kind of violence. Then arambhi hinsa, the occupational violence, is of three kinds. Udyami hinsa, graha arambhi hinsa, and virodhi hinsa. I'll explain these terms. Udyami hinsa is one which is committed in the occupation for making a living, So we had to make a living and we had to have occupation, as I said. And you can't avoid committing some kind of hinsa in your occupation. So this is unavoidable. Occupations involving hinsa of five sense beings is not permitted. So you must at least see that the five sense beings are not hurt or they are not being killed in your occupation. At least this must be practiced. Then the second one is the graha arambhi hinsa. The hinsa which is carried out in the domestic duties and obligations like cooking, bathing, raising cattle, gardening, traveling, etc. There is some kind of violence or some violence in all these activities which we cannot avoid. But what is emphasized here is that you must minimize these unavoidable violence also. You can't avoid it, it's all right, but you must try to minimize such violence. Virodhi Hinsa is defending the property of the self and the family and defending the country and so on. This is permitted. This kind of violence is permitted because you have a right to defend yourself, you have a right to defend your family, you have a right to defend your country. A householder cannot avoid Arambi Hinsa, as I said, but he must minimize it. Consumption of flesh, alcohol, honey and eggs is prohibited in Jain philosophy or in Jain community. So one cannot eat flesh, he should not drink wine or drink alcohol, and he should avoid eating honey and eggs. Hinsa in another aspect is compassion, It's the same thing, compassion. So you must be compassionate, You must have compassion in your heart so that you don't commit violence. A person engaged in violence is agitated and afflicted and is actuated by animosity. He suffers in many ways and causes suffering to others. This is obvious. Ahimsa Anuvrat promotes compassion quality that improves the vision and actions of the individuals, bringing peace and tranquility, peace and harmony in life and in society. So how important is this rule, you must now appreciate. The next one is Satya Anuvrat. Satya Anuvrat means speaking what is commendable and not false. The two things, it should not be false and it should be commendable. Any speech that causes unnecessary pain and suffering to a living being is not commendable. So it has been defined clearly what is commendable and what is not commendable. Falsehood is making a wrong statement, that we all know. So you must not make a wrong statement any time. A speech is actuated by patience, patience, the anger, ego, deceit and greed. These four passions, they actually agitate or actuate your speech. For instance, backbiting, harsh words, unbecoming, unethical speech, speech provoking others to engage in violence. All these things are accompanied by patience and must be avoided. They are false. Falsehood involves hinsa of some kind or other, Of course, it is, we should not speak lie or we should not speak false, but the right speaking is or the false speaking is involved with some kind of violence, it is connected with violence. The next Anuvrat is Achurya Anuvrat, is non-stealing. Stealing is taking what is not given. It's a very correct definition. What is not given is stealing, and you should avoid that. You cannot take anything which is not given to you. Even if the things which are underground or which are dropped by oversight by someone or forgotten by someone, you cannot take these things, that also is stealing. So theft is hinsa, the theft is violence. It is aroused by some patience, again, patience are controlling factor, and is liable to be punished, of course. A thief is punished by government rules, as we know. The next one is Brahmacharya Anuvrat. I am very briefly giving the ideas of these because most of you know about them. A person must continue confined to sexual contact with her or with his spouse. This is important, Illicit contact with another person of any gender is breach of the vow. Sexual activity may disrupt calm of the soul and the peace of mind, so one must avoid it. Breach of this vow leads to a commission of various kinds and sins against the self, the sin against the society, So if you are indulging in this kind of activity, and then you are doing sin against yourself and also against the society. A person involved in adultery engages in various kinds of deceitful acts. He resorts to these acts to have this practice. The last one is aparigraha anuvrat. What is parigraha? Parigraha is possession and infatuate attachment to possession of wealth, property, servants, etc. So possession of these things, wealth, property, servants, etc. is possession, And then attachment to possession is another important factor, Possessing things is one thing, and having attachment to these possessions is another thing. Possession causes patience of greed and delusion and an evil mind, So the mind of the person having possessions is affected, is disturbed, Is not expected to have a good mind. The desire becomes uncontrollable and a vice, If you have possessions, you desire to have more, and your wish or desire becomes uncontrollable and becomes a vice. It's a big cause of violence and hinsa, and this leads to violence of some kind or other because you want to possess something by hook and crook. So to be free from such desire, one should voluntarily decide a limit on wealth and property. This is known as Ichha Parinam Vrat, So in order that you exercise the rule of aparigraha, you must decide or put a limit yourself voluntarily on how much wealth you are going to have, how much property you are going to have, and so on. Now this of course helps you to doing unnecessary efforts to acquire more and indulge in violence. Observance of these 5 anuvratas can help an individual to live a peaceful life and solve many of the problems facing the modern world and the modern society. So these rules are very helpful to improve the personal quality as well as the society. We must also talk of what is known as a punya and pap here. What is punya is called merit activity, and pap called demerit activity. These two concepts are very important to understand the activities in our life. So there are 2 important concepts of meritorious punya and demeritorious pap activities which are part of our lifestyle. Merit is the result of auspicious thoughts and activities, and while demerit is the result of inauspicious thoughts and activities. So if you have good thoughts and good activities, you engage in meritorious activities, the punya. And if you have inauspicious or bad thoughts and bad activities, you indulge in demerit or pap activities. Both are in the form of karma, this is a philosophical point of view that both these activities are in the form of karma. Karma in fact gives rise to different kinds of activities, good or bad. The fruits of these karmas are experienced as pleasure and pain, So the pleasure and pain which we have have in our life are fruits of some karma, and we had discussed the karma philosophy earlier. The influx of merit karma takes place by, so what do you do, if you had to have a good activity or merit karma or a punya? First thing is love and compassion for others, other beings. This is the first thing. You must be compassionate. You must love other people. You must have love for other beings, whether human beings or non-human beings, animals, And purity of thoughts. You must have pure thoughts. This is the first thing. The second one, devotion, respect towards Arihant, Siddha, saints, Guru and virtuous people. So you must have a respect or must have a good feelings towards these noble people, Arihant, Siddha and the saints, and you must respect your Guru and the virtuous people who are virtuous, you must respect them. The influx of demerit karma or pap karma is caused by, number one, passions of anger, ego, deceit and greed. These passions lead to inauspicious kind of activity, pap karma. Indulging in cunningness, sensuality, speaking ill of others, they are all pap karma. Merit purifies the soul, if you are doing punya karma, it purifies your soul and is helpful in spiritual progress. It's a good thing. It helps in formation of right faith, cultivation of self-restraint, development of inner power and observance of religion, So all these things improve by punya karma or auspicious acts. And there are 9 kinds of merit activities which are defined in scriptures. That is giving food to hungry, giving water to thirsty, shelter to destitute, bedding to poor, clothes to poor, entertaining good thoughts, speaking sweet words, physical service to the needy, and salutation to virtuous people. They are all meritorious or punya activities. And then another thing is giving books and educational material to students, medicines to sick, and protection to helpless. They are also auspicious activities. What are demeritorious or pap activities? And this causes pain and misery to you and to others. So 13 kinds of demerit activities have been described. Activity of one's interest in unethical way. Activity of no personal interest in unethical way. Activity of slaying. Activity through accident. Activity of error by sight. Activity by lying. Taking what is not given. Activity by mere conceit. Activity through pride. Bad treatment to one's friends. Activity through deceit. Activity through greed. Actions referring to religious life. All these activities, they constitute what is called as a demerit or pap activities, and one should not indulge in these things. It must be avoided by all means. Other demerit activities are also defined, and you can go through these activities here, which are written down in this slide. In the end, I would like to say that the merit and demerit activities are important mark of our lifestyle and deserve careful attention. So you should be very careful in your activities. Always try to do good activities and avoid bad activities, demerit activities. So merit activities promote healthy and happy life. And the Jain principles help improving life and lifestyle. So the lifestyle based on Jain principles, gives you peace and happiness in life. And this is how you improve the quality of population. Thank you.